So the live stream will pop up into the obscure.
Yep, it should be streaming any second now.
It's there. It's there.
Oh, so exciting.
Okay.
Where is it? Ah, there it is.
You guys.
Look at us.
Okay, I just shared it. I have to maybe. Oh, my microphone just wilted off to the side.
Is she leaving?
Oh.
What did she do?
My microphone just went. Okay, well, let's hope that's tight enough and things will be fine there. Okay. Everybody's watching all of that.
Everyone's watching what you will do. It's a nice little song intro from me to you guys.
Thank you.
Welcome. Where do I find... Okay, so the chat would just happen if we've got somebody on the Twitch chat, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I might have typed something in there. Maybe. I don't know who it went to. If you guys see it, it's probably from... Yeah, it's probably from us. From Restream. We'll find out.
Okay.
You guys.
Oh my god, I have the sound on my
Don't do
YouTube
that.
and it's echoing. Yeah, no, it's just echoing in my ear and I was like, it's broken, Tressa.
Just mute it.
The first one's broken. I did just mute it. Okay.
You guys, first show. Are you excited? I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to the audience. You guys excited?
I'm so excited, and they better all be.
Everyone.
I want to see it in the chat. Tell me how excited you are. And maybe you enter a sweepstakes. I don't know what the prize
I don't
is,
know.
though.
I can tell you what it's not. Oh. Hello.
Oh my god, we finally got rid of it.
Oh, there we go. Welcome to the chat room. Okay, I think I got it now. I think I
No.
can read the chat.
Okay.
Well, the Twitch chat at any rate.
Yeah, that's all that matters. That's all I want you to keep a hold of.
Everybody, I will be
Yeah.
watching the Facebook and YouTube tweets, so I'm the one you're going to talk to.
And I will be talking to Kick. Or if anyone shows up there. What's up with Kick? Kick is so weird and gross.
You know, the only time that I ever heard about it was on like dating websites where people under the age of 40 would be like, "Do you have a kick?" And I'm like, "Do you have a goodbye?"
Oh no.
Bye-bye.
I
No
didn't know
more.
what I
That's not the same
didn't
Kick,
even think it
though.
was a thing.
I don't know what any of it is, so
I
I stay the
know.
hell away from all of it.
Why
How
would
about
you
that?
name your streaming service the same thing as a messaging service?
I know.
Everybody.
Oh, wait, they're different?
Yes. It's
Apparently
Oh,
so.
that's-
Things
that's
that you
terrible.
learn. Things
People.
that you learn. I
That's
don't
terrible.
know what's going on. It is terrible.
all right.
Away from all of it.
Oh, shit. See?
What? There it is.
I just did it.
There it is.
All right. Should we let's do an intro and then we'll get our
I
guests
think
in.
it's
so.
top of the hour, so let's
Yeah.
I think so.
officially
All right.
start.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode
Woo,
of
woo,
Into the
woo.
Obscure. We are so excited to be here. Tressa,
Mm.
Kara, and myself, Jeni, have finally reunited, and we are so gosh darn excited about it.
Yay.
And it
That's
feels
how
so
you
good.
can tell. It really does.
Uh-huh.
It does. It does. We're super excited about our guests, so I think we're going to pop in there pretty quickly here. We have some cool stuff that we are doing this weekend. Would anyone care to talk about it?
I will. So we are going to first, Jeni and I are going to take a little excursion to Bachelor's Grove with some people that have not necessarily been before. So I say I didn't grow up going to Bachelor's Grove. As a teenager, because, you know, who didn't, I guess, if you grew up around here. So nowadays I just go during the day, not at night anymore. And we're going to bring some people that haven't been. I think I will probably, we'll live stream on something once we get there, to let you know who it is. Surprise guests.
Ooh.
And then I'm pretty excited. We meet up with Tressa a little later in the day. There is an event at Out of Space in Berwyn. So it's a gallery music event. The Strange and Unusual Gallery in Joliet's kind of invading. It's called the Space Invader at Out of Space. One of my dearest friends, Rob Johnson, is one of the exhibitors or featured artists, and is April Love, and so we're gonna go to the event. I'm super excited. So
Gonna be a
Out
good
of Space
time.
in Berwyn. So it'll be all 3 of us together. So we'll take tons of pictures and maybe even live stream from there. We'll see.
Oh, we should do that.
We should.
Agreed.
We will.
All right.
Agreed.
And with that, let's welcome our guests, Emily and Tobias Wayland from the Fortean. Wait, what is it?
Singular Society.
I'm sorry, guys. I got one thing on my head. It's been
all
a long
right.
day.
It's all right. It's okay. And I didn't help by discussing all the other 14
Yeah,
beforehand.
that's
I
on
did
you.
not help. That's on me.
That's on you.
That's on me.
That's
yes.
Hi, guys. It's Emily and Tobias Wayland.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Welcome to our inaugural guest. This is so exciting.
It's quite an honor. Yeah, this is cool.
We're very, very thrilled. And we're all going to the dunes now.
I'm gonna
To
switch you.
the area of the dunes.
Oh yeah,
That's where we're
in the
going.
background.
Yep.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Let me just move
Well,
you.
We chose. We chose this back. Why did we choose this background?
Yeah.
Tressa?
Oh, I'll tell you, because every week we're going to choose a new photo from a someone who posts photos in Hella Obscura, the Facebook page, and we're going to keep that as the background for that week's episode because it's super fun to see, and creepy stuff always gets posted, and we want to see it and promote it. This week we got Jeni's because we didn't ask permission yet. So thank you, Jeni.
You're welcome. This was a delightful trip to the Indiana National Park, the dunes. And I was out there at night looking for anything unusual. I did not see anything, but the whole place is really cool. And at night, there's a very creepy sort of vibe going on, as with most national parks. But
For sure. That's actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because that's on our list of places to go because it's not far. I think
It's
it's,
like 3 hours for us.
yeah, I mean, well, it might be more like 4 or 5, but it's not that far. And we just got back from Mammoth Cave.
Ah,
And that
I
was
love
super
a
fun.
cave.
seriously.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
It is a absolute miracle of I don't know, whatever makes caves. Anyway,
Water.
right,
Of water.
really flow water. But yeah, no, it really was beautiful. And of course, there's all the weird stuff that's associated with Mammoth Cave. And again, we didn't see anything weird either, but it was. So.
Those places, though, man, they just kind of give you a vibe. I would highly recommend the dunes. Most of the areas do close by 9 or 11. Like at least the places by water. Everything else is going to be open late because national parks, a lot of them don't close at all.
Right.
So, but at the dunes, which makes 100% sense because there is a lot of city around the area. They do tend to close the waterways so that people don't act like idiots and drown is my assumption.
Right. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Isn't it right outside of Gary?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
So-
farther.
Music Man. Music Man. I know, you guys were all thinking it. Okay, so I would like to say that I'm familiar with your guys' work because I was sent an article from the Singular Fortean Times. Is Times on there? Singular Fortean. Right. After I had a sighting, and this person who sent me the article did not know I had this sighting, and it was like an hour after this exact sighting that they sent me the article for.
No.
Yeah, and it has, since that day, the site has been bookmarked on every single browser I own because, God damn it, what is going on? And you have such a great website. A lot of it's pretty local to me anyway. Not all of it, but I love all the Mothman stuff. So why don't you guys tell us and the listeners exactly what your site's about? Or vaguely.
So the Singular Fortean Society is a investigative and journalistic organization that Emily and I started back in 2016. And so let me start from the beginning, because
Might as well.
the first question that we always get, of course, is what does Fortean mean? And so the word Fortean, for anybody who isn't aware, comes from Charles Fort. And so Charles Fort was an early 20th century collector of weird news stories. And he would collect all of these weird news stories from all over the world, and he would compile them in these massive volumes, and then he would sort of write about them and speculate about what might be behind it. And he would often do so in a very tongue-in-cheek manner. He's a very engaging, very entertaining writer. So I encourage anybody who has any sort of interest in anomalous phenomena to, even though it was written, in the first half of the 20th century, go back and read Charles Fort, because he literally is the godfather of paranormal investigation, like modern investigation. Like, you can't read John Keel or Lauren Coleman or Brad Steiger or any of these people that are looked at it as sort of cornerstones of investigation today, and truly understand what it is that they are writing about in many instances, if you do not understand Charles Fort. And so one of Fort's most famous quotes is, "One measures a circle beginning anywhere." And I've always taken that to mean that by studying any aspect of the paranormal, we can understand something about all of it. And that colors our perspective when it comes to investigation. So we don't specialize in any one area. We will investigate anything from ghosts to UFOs to cryptids to even weirder stuff. And we look for the commonalities, and there are many. And fundamentally for us, I'd say that the commonality that we have found to be the most important, certainly the most pronounced, is humanity. The only tool that I would say we have that can arguably observe and record paranormal phenomena is the human mind, right?
Yeah.
And so we tend to take an experiential view of these phenomena and sort of concentrate on that, because it's most of what we have to work with. And I hope I didn't digress there too much. And hopefully that gives people a pretty decent idea of sort of what we do.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Like,
succinct.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
So
Bated
you
breath.
said, okay, so you talked about ghosts and cryptids and aliens and even weirder. So what would...
Well, we get all kinds of stuff. Here, one second. I'm going to move this a little bit closer, because I keep disappearing, and I promise that that's not a paranormal thing. That's I'm wearing black, and I keep getting too far away from the camera thing. Yeah, we get all kinds of weird reports that don't necessarily fit into a neat category. One that comes to mind just off the top of my head was a woman who wanted to report hearing this haunting melody. She was with her family in, I believe, Arkansas, and they were on a river down there, and they swear they all heard this really haunting melody. There was no source that they could find. Certainly didn't make any kind of sense for them to be hearing this. And the only thing that I could relate it to was something like fairy music. Like, if you're familiar with Irish lore around fairy music and people hearing these weird haunting melodies in out of the way places, and how that can sort of stick with them, it most reminded me of that. But otherwise, I mean, it was just a weird one-off sort of report that would be very, very difficult to otherwise categorize.
That's wild. That sounds fascinating, and I'm familiar with some of those fairy stories, but primarily I think, like, what we hear a lot is that sort of used to lure people towards either doom or kidnapping or just bad things in general. Did she feel that was kind of the case, or like, how you get kind of that feeling in there?
Sure. Yeah. No. From what she said, there was really nothing untoward about the experience. It certainly didn't culminate in anything like a fairy abduction or anything similar. Really, I think overall, sort of the effect was that it stuck with them because it was so beautiful, and so there wasn't any of those other sort of nefarious aspects that we hear about so often in fairy lore.
I really like that.
I mean, if you're gonna have one of these kinds of experiences,
Yeah.
that's not a bad way to go. Just hearing some really nice music.
Right?
Yeah, that's not the kind of bad memory to take away whatsoever. So how often and how far do you travel, like for all of the stories that you gather?
Well, that's a good question. We, I mean, I would say at least a few times a year we find
Yeah.
ourselves in out of the
Somewhere.
way places. Well, sure. When we first started out back in 2016, we didn't travel that much. We didn't have the means to travel like we do now. And so we really covered a lot of very local stuff. And then in 2017, when all of the winged humanoid sightings started coming out of the Chicago area, and we didn't live very far away, it was very easy for us to travel down there. But now, every vacation, every conference that we get invited to, I mean, they all turn into us stopping by someplace
Yeah.
that's weird as long as we're going. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if this was being recorded or not, but we just got back from Mammoth Cave State Park, which was really fun. And we both love nature, and we would go no matter what. But of course, Mammoth Cave, that whole area is also reputedly home to a number of cryptids. We were in Louisville first, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to steal your thunder. Like, why don't
No.
you?
Well, we went to Louisville first, and on the way out, we stopped to see the Pope Lick Bridge.
Yes. So if you're not familiar with the Pope Lick Trestle Bridge, it is reputedly haunted by this goat man figure.
Oh,
now,
the goat. Yeah.
There we
People
go.
say, now, I've never heard any firsthand reports from an actual witness who has said that they've seen this thing. The area is really most dangerous because it is an active railroad bridge, and very tragically, several people have died while up on this trestle bridge because the folklore is that if you're up on this bridge, you can somehow summon this goat man figure to appear. But what usually happens is people just get hit by a train,
Yeah.
and it's so sad. And if you ever get a chance to go, there is at least one memorial that looks like it was made by somebody's family. And so it's the perfect example of why people should take this stuff seriously. When people talk about going out and investigating and getting out in the field and stuff like that, it's not something to be taken lightly. It's not. It's not a trip out to the club or something. You know what I mean? Like, there can be serious consequences because usually you're going someplace isolated. You're usually going at night. And there's so much that can go wrong. And so, I wanted to stop by and see it for myself. And I'm glad that we did, because it's difficult to, I think, understand the enormity of it. First of all, I mean, it's really, really high. And there used to be these safety platforms. And they had these safety platforms on the side of the trestle bridge, and that was so if you were on the bridge and there was a train coming, you could step off to the side, hopefully, if you had time, and you wouldn't get hit. But they took those off, and the reason that they took them off was to discourage people from going up there. But really, all it does is just get people killed.
You're right. You guys, come on.
Honestly, I thought the sign.
Because was anybody actually going like, oh, can't go up there? I'm not noticing any safety little things to jump off on. No, I would never. I would
Highly
think that far
underestimating
ahead.
the audience. Yeah.
There's no signage or or anything either. Like Emily just
Yeah.
brought that up. Like there's nothing saying like, hey, warning, active railroad bridge, you will get hit by a
Like,
train,
at
or
least put 10 of them up.
right.
Right.
Like,
Or
really
like
Yes.
like a sign, like, hey, nowhere else to go if there's a train. Like, this is
see-
it.
Yeah, like, okay, so is it over water or what is it over?
No, there's just this this like wooded area. It's like a low point in the terrain, and then yeah, there's just woods and ground. And so I mean,
Oh,
not everybody gets hit by a train. Sometimes people jump and get seriously injured
so
that
you
way.
just really
Mhm.
die.
Yeah.
There's no recourse. Like at least a river, you could have a chance.
Yeah, so
Yeah. And
I
just to
feel like this
mention
was
how
a real bummer, but
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to mention how high those things are. Those are the things that like, that's like the
It's
height that
very
you could
big.
bungee jump from,
Right.
and like that would be like an activity. Like those things are so unbelievably high.
And it's
Right.
very deceiving too, because of like the lack of signage. It's a very like rusty, old-looking bridge, so I think it fools a lot of people too.
that is the issue. Is people assume that it's not active because yeah, it looks old as hell and it's all
Right.
it's rusty and everything, but it absolutely, I promise you, is active.
Good gracious. Yeah, I really like that you bring up that point, because these are places that are not necessarily safe. I mean, if you're going out into parks, if you're going out to some of these abandoned places, like, it's dangerous, and you should probably keep a little bit of common sense around you and take safety procedures and protocols very seriously.
Yes.
No,
There's
I
been a
think that
couple-
now at night, like, no, I don't want to. Somebody says, "Do you want to go do this thing?" Like, there's a haunted place somewhere in a forest. What time of day are we going? I don't know. Like, we don't need to get crazy here.
Yeah, it's not the ghosts you need to worry about. They're not going to hurt
No.
you.
People.
No, it's
Well,
the people.
and your
or
own stupidness, or not stupidness,
Well,
but your own
that-
hubris.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm great and nothing will happen.
Yes.
We do
That's all
have
I
two
say.
commenters that just said, actually, one of them's my husband. The bridge makes its own ghosts, but we're not there to see ghosts. We're here to see Goat Man. So, not that.
Daniel.
But also in Rob, but he says not safe, but oh so worth it, because he does have some amazing photographs of some amazing places. And even though they're not safe, people do still take those risks.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, it's not like I don't. I just try to do it in the safest way possible. I will be the first guy to volunteer to go out into any forest at midnight if there's even a chance of seeing Bigfoot or a UFO or Mothman or whatever. Like that's fine. Sign me up. But at the same time, I'm also the guy who remembered to bring a first aid kit, who has extra, batteries for his flashlight, who has a flashlight in the
A
So,
portable charger for your phone. That's what you got.
I have one.
Yeah.
Actually, it's nice. It's got a couple different methods to be charged. You can either hand crank it. It has a solar
Oh.
panel, or, and this is actually easily the best way. You can like just charge it in like a wall socket.
Yeah.
It keeps its
Yeah.
charge forever. Basically.
That sounds expensive.
I'm noting things down on like gear that I would like to own at some point in time. Yeah, agreed. Like I'd be the absolute first person to go do any of these things, so long as I was briefed in safety beforehand and had my handy like little tool set of
You're leather
things to
man.
get out of things. My Leatherman.
Uh-huh. I get it.
Leatherman.
Good Leatherman. Like a good
Right?
multi-tool it's the best.
I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how many times that has come in handy sitting in my car.
Yes, always keep one in your car, everybody.
Yep. Anyway, back to the actual paranormal.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah.
not safety tips area, but okay, so you have been kind of, where's the furthest you've gone to investigate a story, and what was it?
Well, we were in Maine, I guess, last
Yeah,
year.
last fall we went to Acadia National Park with my family. And, of course, we mostly did a lot of like hiking and touristy stuff. But, we looked up a few things while we were there. And the area definitely has its stories.
Oh, for sure. And let's be real. Most investigations are largely hiking. And
At
so,
least for us.
yeah, I mean, if you're interested in monsters and things of that nature, you're going to be doing just a lot of walking in the woods. But yeah, when we were out there, there were a few interesting places. There was one place called Witch Hole Pond, and it had, I mean, that's a really evocative
This
name.
sounds
Right?
That's a great name.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, holy crap, Witch Hole Pond, like I have to see this. And so it's pretty easy to find. It's not even that far from the actual like National Park Visitor Center. And it's just like this weird little pond. There's nothing special about it, but I couldn't find anybody who knew why it was called Witch Hole Pond. Like nobody knows. It's like it's lost time. I was asking people in town, just like, hey, like, do you live around here? Why is this called Witch Hole Pond?
Well, there's a lot of like trail marker signs for sale, just as like you could hang in your house. And we bought the Witch Hole Pond one, so we would ask. I mean, we would hope and assume that the store clerks would know, but
They know. It's all been locked away. Not for not for the tourists. This
Still
is for us.
tourists.
Yeah.
You're not part of them yet.
The only thing I could find was there is a weird story associated with that area, and I don't remember anybody's names, but they're not important.
Yeah.
About a gentleman who was kidnapped by spirits in that area to witness this like ghost wedding. Basically. Right. Well, it I thought it was really cool because it has a lot of parallels with fairy lore, for instance.
Yes.
That's the exact kind of weird thing that would happen in Scotland or Ireland 500-600 years ago. Somebody would be talking about, oh, hey honey, sorry I was out all night, but I got kidnapped by fairies to witness this wedding. You know how it goes. You can't even be mad.
They made me be the efficient. I could not.
You were always doing that too. You were always getting whisked away to like some big dance. Or
I'm
some
good at
party
my
where,
job.
Food was everywhere, and then they'd stumble home in the morning like just hanging out with the fairies. They throw a wicked party.
Right? They threw whiskey all over me. I don't... Yeah, it's. I mean, so it was something like that, and so I had just assumed that probably it was some iteration of an earlier story, likely from that area. But still super interesting. There was also we went up to Cadillac Mountain, and so Cadillac Mountain I think is the highest elevation somewhere
east of the Rockies.
East of the Rockies,
I
sure.
think so.
It's definitely the highest elevation in Maine. Probably on the East Coast there. And it had an interesting multi-witness UFO sighting attached to it. And so, I mean, it's not spectacular other than that the witnesses themselves were willing to come forward, and it was covered by local news. But basically, it's just a weird lights in the sky sort of thing. And so, of course, naturally, we went up there. There's a way that you can go up there and watch the sunrise, which is honestly beautiful. And if you're ever in that area, you should do it.
Gotta be.
Right. And so, like you get up there and it's completely dark, and I didn't see any UFOs, but I saw a really nice sunrise. And so that was almost as good.
Almost, not quite.
Yeah. Right. Oh man, have you guys been out, just on a personal note, have you guys been out to like Arches National Park and dug around at all in that general area?
I have when I was younger, but that was way before I was doing any of this.
So no, not 9 years old out there searching for searching for a skinwalker out there. That would be. I would like to see an art. If you guys could get on that, that would be great. I'd love to see some writings on that.
I mean, we do want to go out west into the southwest at some point.
Oh,
that would
definitely.
be amazing.
Yeah, we would like to.
Be cool.
Very, very cool.
Do you guys have a favorite story that you've covered?
Oh gosh. If you think of it quicker, you go first.
You have like several.
I know. I'm just
I
trying
do
to
all
think.
the talking, so I see these
know,
opportunities for you to speak. I'm like,
She's going through her mental
I'm just trying to
Rolodex. It's
think of
fine.
which one. Maybe the mansion.
Yeah, you should tell the story about your camera flash at the mountain.
Yeah,
Or
then we can
that
tell.
mountain, at the
And then-
mansion.
And then maybe lead into the ghost.
Sure.
So we live in South Central Wisconsin, and a little bit like northwest of us by like an hour, 2 hours is Baraboo, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is where the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus was founded. So the eldest brother had a mansion built there, and I would say, was it 2016 when we first toured it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, so through a couple people that we knew, we went on a tour one evening, and they're talking about like the different phenomena in each room, and near the foyer in the front was the eldest Ringling brother, Al, that's his house. His office was there, and that was described as having some activity. And we had just come out of one room, and we're gonna go into that room, and they were just talking about that. But I was trying to get because I'm a photographer, I was trying to get my camera equipment set up for the different room, and I had to change the batteries in my flash. So it's one of those flash units that attaches to the top of the camera. So I took the batteries out, and I had it in one hand, and I had to dig through my bag to try to find new batteries because I wasn't being very organized. And all of a sudden the flash just keeps going off. And he looks at me and he's just like, "What are you doing? Can you stop that?" And I'm just
I was so annoyed.
And I'm just like, there was no way for that thing to fire. And it was interesting that we were about to go in that room, and it was just after he had been talking about people seeing an apparition in Al's office. And I was pretty much next to the doorway of the office. So I thought that was interesting. And he did say that, they've had some weird technical light flickering things before. And that's definitely not the first time that has happened to me with equipment. Well, it
wasn't the last time.
It wasn't the last time, that's for sure. I'm trying to think of before that, but anyways. So fast forward to October of 2017, and we get married there. There's a ballroom that got built off of the back of it by, I think, an Elks Club at some point in time, and so the mansion owner used to lease that out, so that's where the wedding was. And one of our guests had been like taking pictures just with their iPhone. If you know what a live picture is, iPhone will record a few seconds of footage as you take a still photo. And so we must have been just like, I don't know, hanging out near the bar, had just had our first dance or something, and she was taking pictures. Well, after the fact, our guest sent us a message and was like, "Hey, I don't know if you guys saw this, but so we're standing in the like more towards the left side of the photo. Then you can see our ring bearer, who is our nephew, and then all of a sudden you see a very pale, stout figure kind of walk past behind him and then just kind of go away." And it's very weird looking because, like, I mean, people it's not a great picture because it's a very dark room. We're far away. The camera quality isn't amazing. But, like, you can tell, like, this guy or thing looks very different than we look and how our nephew looks. And one of the things I did right away was I took it into Photoshop and inverted it, so like a film negative. And with our Caucasian skin tones, it's going to the opposite side of the color wheel, right? So when it's inverted, we look very like cyan. Well, I thought this thing looked pale, but the white inverted directly to black, pretty much showing no skin pigment. And we talked to the mansion owner and we said, "Hey, is this, he wasn't any of our guests. And is this anybody that worked for you?" Something like that. He's like, "No." So we don't know what that thing is. I've showed it to several people over the years, and I mean, people have said they're creeped out by it, which I think says something. Like, obviously they might have the weird narrative coming into it, but like a lot of people when they experience these phenomena have this have that feeling. So I thought that was interesting too. But yeah, that's one of my favorite stories and probably one of my favorite locations, just because like, I mean, it's obviously part of our story, but the fact that we had gone there to just check out the site and check it out for what it was, and then, you know, have that experience happen at our wedding was pretty cool.
It was, yeah. I mean, I guess that's one of my favorites too. I mean, and you're right. It's sort of an interesting series of events that led to us investigating this haunted mansion, and then eventually getting married there on, you know, Friday the
Oh, yeah, you
13th
mentioned
in October. Yeah,
You guys are so cool.
part. Like, of course there was a ghost.
Yeah.
When else would they show up? It was Friday the 13th in October. So, but yeah, no, I think those are both great stories.
What a great treat for your guys' wedding specifically. Like, how great is that? I love that.
Yeah, a totally harmless ghost shows up and bothers nobody. Like, that's absolutely
just
perfect.
takes a photo. Like,
Right.
how
Yeah.
perfect. Now, we
Absolutely.
all have in our group all different interests. I tend to be more like the ghost person, Jenny's cryptids, Tressa's more the Mothman,
And
etc.
aliens. Mhm.
And
Aliens.
aliens, yeah,
Mhm.
which may be saying the same thing, which is an important thing to ask you guys what you think later. Do you guys have preferences, or are you just like anything and everything, you know, is wonderful?
Oh no, we absolutely do. Emily likes ghosts, and I like everything but ghosts.
Like, I would say first it's ghosts, just based on my experiences, but I really do like the monsters too. Honestly though, UFOs and aliens freak me out.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like, that whole idea of being abducted and loss of control is just like a big no for me.
Yeah. That's not a great part of it.
It's not a good track
big
run for
no
the
for
aliens.
most of the people who experience it too.
And like,
Honestly,
I do not consent to being abducted.
right? Well, it wouldn't be an abduction if you did.
Yeah.
It would just be a nice visit to a nice party.
Right? Yeah.
Say that.
It would be more of an invitation if you were accepted, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
you
and
just want to come
nobody-
along?
Nobody gets alien invited anywhere.
Well, maybe they do. They're just not talking about it.
That's true.
It's the
as soon
abductees
as
that
I
are
said
like,
that-
you guys, this happened. You know, come on. But the
Right.
ones that were invited and said, yeah, let's do it, they already signed the NDA. They're not going to let us know.
You know,
That's
I mean,
actually- oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. As soon as I said it too, I was like, well, except for like all of the contactees in the 50s going forward, who
Yup.
claim to have long-standing relationships with aliens. They're constantly getting alien invited places.
Right.
Or-
Yeah,
Why is it just
I
the
feel like-
boomers? Like,
Yeah, I feel like they don't need to abduct
That's what I always
anyone.
said.
There's so many people who would just gladly accept that
Go.
invitation.
yes.
You know,
I
And
would
then maybe-
consent to medical experiments on my body. Get me out of here, please. Yes.
maybe that's it though. The aliens are afraid that they'd like kind of stick around and just not leave. Like that
Yeah.
one friend that you invited to a party like 10
Yeah.
years ago, and now every so
Yeah.
often you have to talk to them.
Yeah, that would be me.
Like the aliens are. Oh God, that's Fred.
oh,
He
totally.
would not go
Every
away.
time he gets on the ship, he just doesn't leave. Oh, not him.
Yeah, those
Okay,
poor
words.
aliens. Like they took me 3 weeks ago, and I'm still on their couch. The worst.
The
Absolute
worst.
worst. No, I
That's
mean,
Fred.
I tell Emily that all the time, and she hates it because I'm like, if we're out in the woods and I see a portal, I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm just jumping through it.
That makes me so mad.
So
We're just
you
gonna
would
do
climb like the stairs and go through the door if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
if you just found the stairs?
Absolutely. Immediately.
Emily,
You know, he
no.
just leaves me here. Like, you don't know what's on the other side. Yeah, it could be better than here, but what if it's not?
You know where the portal
But
is.
it won't have
No.
Emily.
Could
She's
it be
not
worse
going.
than here? Could it though? I mean, it's
Right.
pretty bad here.
I don't. You know, every story, every tale that we've ever heard about the other dimension, it's rarely better. It's
Yeah.
rarely better.
I mean,
Just look at
H.P.
Lovecraft.
stuff.
Yep, exactly. Exact words coming out of my mouth right then. I know exactly where you're
Okay,
at
guys,
right now.
that was fiction. Okay, settle down.
You know what? Nope. Nope. No way. I'm with Emily on this one.
Well, but it's just people that came back somehow that said it's not better. How many
Right, the
people
other ones
are still
died.
there?
No,
Well,
they're
that's-
dead.
No, the other
Maybe
ones
a
are
valid
sleeping on the
point.
couch. They're still over
Yeah, I was
there.
gonna say maybe a valid point that they died, but also what it's they might just be saying, nope, not leaving this. It's a fairy party.
They can't. They fell into a giant maw. They're being digested someplace by
Many
an elder
weddings to
god.
officiate.
So many weddings. So out of
So many weddings.
It's not
God,
place
it's
wedding.
just-
So out of all of the places that you've heard about or that you've gotten reports from and you have not been, what would, and I feel like each one of you might have a different answer to this, but where would be a place that would be just the sort of ultimate like apex, and what would the report be? Like what would you want the most to investigate, I think?
Well, I mean the ultimate location. I don't sound like an elitist douche here for a second, but like I don't really go in for like paranormal tourism or any of that stuff. Like when we were down in Louisville, there's that asylum.
Waverly Hills.
Yeah,
Mm.
and you know, everybody makes a big deal out of it. I'm like, well, I mean, if it's that haunted, you know, they got like 3 or 4 tours a day. You know, I feel like we should have something more than you know than dust and insect orbs and things, right? So like, I don't go in for a lot of that kind of stuff. What the most important location for me, I guess, would be any place where something is actually happening, where I could get there before it's over. So that could be literally anywhere. And the types of phenomena that I find the most interesting are usually the ones that are intersectional. And so take shadow people, for instance. I like to use them because they're basically just a paranormal cipher, right? They mean whatever the hell you want them to mean, and everybody just overlays their own bias on top of them all the time. So if you're into ghosts and hauntings and you see a shadow person, then it was a ghost. If you're into demons, it was a demon. If you're into aliens, it was an alien. But at the end of the day, nobody knows what the hell it was. It was just this weird shadow person. And so that kind of stuff is fascinating to me, because it really speaks to this sort of underlying reality that could be behind so much of the narratives that we have built surrounding paranormal phenomena. And so getting to the bottom of something like that is very interesting to me. That's something I would be all over.
Wow.
I think for me, just because also like the ghost interest and like I also really enjoy history, I would like to check out some of the more classic locations in like the UK, Ireland, stuff like that. Like one of my, obviously being a photographer, a lot of what I talk about with the society is anomalous photographs. And one of my favorites, and it's one of the more famous examples, the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. I would like to go to Raynham Hall and check out the scene of the crime, so to speak, where that was taken, and from a nerdy photographer's perspective, to actually be in the staircase where they took the picture and just kind of like understand that location more, because all I've done is looked at the photograph and photographs of it in my, you know, taken recently. But I think being there would be another thing. But obviously all of that history out in Europe would be really neat.
Wow. Absolutely. I like that answer a lot.
I have a question from the audience. Rob Johnson asks, what's your take on the Joplin spook light or the Marfa lights?
Sure. Boy, you know, you get spook lights all over the place. You know, there's a relatively famous one, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours north of us, probably,
Yeah.
up in the Upper Peninsula
The
of
Paulding
Michigan.
light.
Yeah. It's this light that people say that they see, and they claim that it'll dance around and do all this other stuff. And we went up there and we checked it out ourselves. And it's probably car headlights. And I know when you say that, then everybody who's seen it, who thinks it's something else, is like, oh no, I didn't see car headlights. Maybe those other rooms did, but definitely not me. But that's probably what explains the Paulding lights. Now, when it comes to stuff like the Marfa lights down in Texas, I don't know, because those have been so much more well known for so much longer. And I've never seen personally a conclusive debunking of that phenomenon. Certainly there are hypotheses that exist to explain it, and maybe it is something like some kind of meteorological phenomenon, that refracts or reflects light or something that allows lights from miles and miles away to be seen, in this other area. But who knows? Right now, it is, it occupies one of my favorite positions in this field, and that is unexplained. And that doesn't mean that it's aliens. Doesn't mean that it's headlights reflecting off of something. It means that we just frankly don't know, and that's part of the fun, I think.
Absolutely. That's like my favorite part. Like, anyone that claims they know what anything definitively is lying, because nobody knows. And I appreciate when people just come out and say that.
Oh, sure. No, I mean, I like to say that only con men and crazy people will say that they know the absolute truth about any of this, because that's, in my experience, that's who's out there saying that. Frankly.
Yeah, 100%. So I got to ask you about Mothman, because from what I've heard, you've got a book about the Lake Michigan Mothman. Do you have theories? Do you have?
I did write a book about that.
You did? Oh, I thought I just made that up. Thank you for backing me up on that.
Well, that's all right. People can find it if they want to.
It just won't show up. That's the Mothman.
What's it called?
Back to the void and grabbed it.
Where can people find it?
Oh, wow. We still sell those through our website. Otherwise, if you got a favorite online book retailer like Amazon, I'm sure you can pick it up there. Theories, though, on those winged humanoid sightings. The only thing that I guess I could say with any certainty is that there are some people who are seeing something that they can't explain. I'm usually much more comfortable saying what something isn't than saying what it is, because if we knew what any of this stuff was, it would be taught at university, and you could go get a degree in it, and I wouldn't be here because I wouldn't be necessary, right?
I fully understand the irony of me asking you this question after saying I appreciate nothing is definitive because we don't know. I get the irony. I'm still curious.
Oh, sure. Well,
there
are some things that we have discovered as a result of this investigation. So I've come up with a couple different profiles for these sightings. The first profile is almost certainly misidentified large birds, and that came about from a sighting in May of 2018. There was a guy, he was bicycling to work down in the Pilsen neighborhood of Chicago. And, it was in the afternoon, and, it was a bright sunny day, and he's just bicycling to work, and he sees this man and woman on the street corner, and they're pointing at something in the sky. And so he looks up, and he sees what he would later describe to me as either a giant bat or a person in a wingsuit. And so he dutifully follows this thing around because he's got a GoPro camera on his bicycle helmet.
Nice.
And he's determined, right? Yeah. And he is determined to get as much good footage of this thing as possible. He was very forthcoming with that footage. He even went so far as to send us the original SD card, which was very helpful. And with his help, we were able to identify the object he had seen and blow it up in Photoshop so we could get a look at it. And it was a bird. I mean, it was 100% a bird. I mean, by its profile, I would guess something like a great blue heron, because they're huge birds, first of all, and they've got these long legs that are out behind them while they're flying. But more than that, unlike say other types of large migratory birds like that, like cranes, when these herons fly, they tuck their head back. So they have these long necks, but you can't see it while they're flying because their head is tucked back. And so it gives them this weird profile that easily could be misinterpreted as either a giant bat or some kind of humanoid figure. And so up until that time, I had been seeing all of these reports that didn't quite fit because they were daytime sightings. They didn't have any of the other paranormal aspects of any of these other sightings, and they really were just people seeing things flying that they couldn't identify during the day. And so this sighting was fantastic because it closed so many of these cases for me, because now I could say, okay, well, I had suspected it, but now I have really good evidence that what this profile of sighting represents is misidentified birds. And that allowed me to concentrate on the other profile of sightings, which almost certainly aren't. And those are the sightings that generally take place at night. The witness sees the thing relatively close. Often they will see it on the ground first, and then it'll take off. They describe various paranormal aspects, such as glowing red eyes or a feeling of almost supernatural fear. They will describe feeling as though they are hypnotized or the thing is looking into their soul. They might have other paranormal phenomena that happens either concurrently or around the same time as this sighting. And those are really, really weird. And those are the ones that keep me interested, frankly, because those are almost certainly not misidentified large birds. If you believe the witness testimony, and I have literally no reason to, insofar as I treat all witness testimony as though what the person is relating to me is their authentic experience, unless I have direct evidence to the contrary. So I guess believe isn't really the right word. I don't generally believe in anything. I think that we know things or we don't know things, and it's okay to not know things as long as we're honest about it, right? And so with those really weird sightings, the ones that I can't explain, really the best I can do is I don't know what it necessarily represents, but I know what it doesn't represent, and that is misidentified large birds.
Fantastic.
So I have a question. What was the very first, and I mean, we have a couple different Mothmans when we say the Mothman, but say for the O'Hare or Chicago Mothman, when did people first start reporting that?
Sure. I think the earliest reports were from something like 2011, but nothing really kicked off until spring of 2017. And since then, the oldest report that I've received was from an experience that a gentleman said he had in 1957.
Oh.
So it's even before.
That would have been before Point Pleasant, right?
Oh, right.
Oh.
Oh, I am unaware of that one. What's that one all about?
Sure. So there was this guy named Gerald, and he's an elderly man now, and he reached out to me a few years ago. I want to say it was in 2020. Literally because he's old, and he was like, hey, I don't know how much time I have left, but I became aware of similar sightings to something that happened to me back in 1957, and so I want to get it off my chest. And he told me about how back then down in Braidwood, Illinois, which is several dozen miles south of Chicago, he was out hunting with his brother and his brother's brother-in-law, and they saw this huge winged humanoid just fly overhead. They're in this field, they're walking across this field. There's one tree, and they see this thing fly over him. And he said he got a pretty decent look at it, and that it was roughly humanoid in shape, that it was dark colored, maybe brownish. And that was it. Like, that's basically his experience. And it was interesting to hear that, obviously, because of how old it was. And then he had another experience, not with any kind of winged humanoid, but that was also interesting several years later. Now, Gerald served in the Army, and as part of his duty while serving, he was stationed at this Nike Hercules missile base in Chicago. And it's since been decommissioned, but it was definitely a thing at one time. And so he was on guard duty at the radar station there one night, and he saw this UFO. He described it to me as basically saucer-like with many different lights, and described how it performed in ways that he didn't think that any aircraft should be able to, which I'm willing to definitely take his word for, especially considering his training and what he was doing at the time of his sighting. And so he goes on to report this to the duty commander, which is what he's supposed to do. And he thinks that's it, right? Like, that's going to be the end of this. I saw this weird thing. Who knows what it was, whatever. But he gets this call several days later by somebody claiming to be J. Allen Hynek. And this person tells him that they have investigated his sighting, and that they were told to tell him that what he saw was in advertising plane. Now, Gerald's sighting was at midnight or so, like it was the middle of the damn night, right? And so
Best time to advertise.
Yeah.
Right. I get for all the people like out at the bar, I guess you had to look up, sure.
Yeah.
And so he didn't buy that, frankly. It didn't make sense. Like, even if it wasn't an advertising plane flying in the middle of the night, the way that it performed, like the way that it was able to just shoot off and disappear, didn't make sense to him. And there was something about that really stuck with me. I was able to verify, of course, that Project Blue Book did actually investigate Gerald's sighting, and that is recorded in info that anybody can get through FOIA. And it was some of that testimony, though, where he talks about how this person called, claiming to be J. Allen Hynek, and maybe it was. I have no way of knowing, frankly. Nobody is alive to really testify to that at this point. But this person calls, claiming to be J. Allen Hynek, and says that he was told to tell Gerald that what he saw was this advertising plane, not that what he saw
Right.
was this advertising plane,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, that part really stuck with me. And what's really interesting about that to me is that, for anybody who doesn't know, so Project Blue Book was this a project by the U.S. Air Force to investigate UFO sightings. And J. Allen Hynek was their chief scientific advisor. And he started out really, really skeptical about this phenomenon, right? But by the end of this, by the end of this project, he was convinced that people were seeing something legitimate that they couldn't explain. And frankly, he was disgusted at the dismissive attitude of the Air Force about these people's sightings. And he went on to investigate UFOs after this for some time. But he was a legitimate scientist. He really, really was. He was very well respected in his field. And so for somebody like that to take a legitimate interest in the UFO phenomenon, I think is fascinating in and of itself.
Absolutely.
But then if it's also true that he called Gerald and was essentially forced to tell him this BS story and admitted to doing so, like that is very interesting to me. Like that confirms, I think, a lot of the suspicions that people have had about the government's interest and treatment of UFOs, over the past 80 years. And yeah, I think it's valuable. It was interesting to me to be able to take something like that and sort of add it to the UFO canon, right? And just put it out there and be like, hey, I don't know if this means anything to you guys, but I think this is interesting. Check it out.
How great is it that he was like, so what? I gotta tell you, you saw an advertising plane. I don't know what it was, but it was an advertising. If anybody asks, advertising plane.
Right.
I love that. Wink. You guys, it's time for us to close up, but I want to thank you so much for joining us. I know. This has been a really great and interesting, to me, conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I
thank
think
you
you
so
covered
much.
all of our individual interests
Yeah.
and then some.
Yeah.
That's quite a feat.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
I guess we're doing our job right then.
So I guess until next week, everybody, we'll see you then. Bye.
Yep. Thanks. Have a good night.